would just be incorporated into this as we move to good.
So it would be a protecting amendment to include, I would allow Gene to work out the details of the language to include for-profit veterinary clinics as being prohibited from operating a mobile shelter in the same manner as being
We have a motion. With second, we'll have a discussion. I'll second it, so we can have a discussion. So, Shane.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm really just, this is true discussion. I'm not advocating a position. I'm trying to think through it.
I'm trying to think through it too.
I think the committee knows the part of this that I'm most uncomfortable with, I think, is this restriction. I understand the mobile clinic restriction. I understand why we want it. I'm just uncomfortable with it because it clearly restrains trade and competition. And when you get to the restraining, I'm just curious as to what the reasons would be, especially, I've heard this discussion about profit versus nonprofit and advantages one may have over the other. I'm just curious as to maybe what disadvantage there is that we're trying to remedy, especially if we made it for-profit and for-profit and ban one. See what I'm saying? You gotta have a reason to it, not just that we don't want to have competition.
I guess my point is not really that point. My point is that it should apply to everyone. Your point is that we shouldn't have any restriction at all on mileage. You want to eliminate the mileage restriction. That's a different, I mean, I see that as a different.
I guess what I'm saying
fair question is just not.
I guess what I'm saying is, when I have asked the question of what we're trying to accomplish by prohibiting these mobile clinics, in the past, Senator McElveen has said it's not fair for a nonprofit to set up next to a for-profit, because the nonprofit gets tax breaks, and they're basically taking business and getting an unfair advantage.
They can perform the services, I think much less expensive.
Right, but if you're saying,
But again, in some of them, the case is set up across the street or within eyeball distance of a for-profit brick and mortar facility.
right, but so then my question is, well, now if we're talking about two for-profits, what's the justification to say you shouldn't be able to have a mobile clinic? That's what I'm asking.
Well, I do believe that part of the objective of putting the ban in there, and quite honestly, I don't really, nonprofit versus profit argument has never really made any difference to me, because you can set up a nonprofit where everybody gets paid a whole lot of money, and so it's just you don't have a corporate profit that you get taxed on, but everybody can make tons and tons of money. So it just depends on if you can find work that will fit into that nonprofit sort of definition, and certainly veterinary care, like medical care, then I never really that argument never really meant much to me. But quite frankly, I mean, there's no way around it. To prevent it is there's no other way to say it, but you're sort of protecting the practice of veterinary medicine. And there's some element of that where they can't just literally set up across the street, that if they're going to do this, then they do it down the road a mile, but they can't do it right across the street from you. And I do believe there's a piece of that we have to be honest about that. At least the effect of that would be to help to protect existing veterinary practices, which I'm very much a free market guy, and want to, you can figure out a way to beat me in business. Well, beat me in business. I've got that, but I guess after listening to the testimony of all these many hearings we've heard from, veterinary practice is a unique type of practice, and if you eliminate them, the overall harm to welfare of animals is going to be significant. I mean, if you can kind of play these games with them and get rid of them, where it's not gonna make any difference if you park a mile down the street to provide the care for the animals that are, for indigent, folks that are indigent, folks that can't afford to pay for that care, whether you set it up down the street or set it up right across the street from the vet, shouldn't matter to them. Shouldn't make, if their goal is to just beat the vet, that's what they're trying to do. That's one thing. If their goal is to provide the best care for the animals, and where they locate it is not that critical. And there's an element of protecting the existing vets, because you don't want to eliminate them either, because they're a critical part. And quite frankly, the margins of some of those practices are not, they're not the money-making machines that some people think. They struggle along, and they can have a tough time. So I think there is a benefit, a public benefit, in providing some protection for that type of care, because you don't want to eliminate that type of care. You don't want to set up a system where you make it impossible for them to operate, particularly smaller or more rural areas. So it is a conflict with that, because I'm like you. If I can get a better lemonade stand, beat me, go ahead. But this is unique. And it's kind of like it's almost like with the hospitals. CON. Yes, it's almost got a little bit of a CON flavor to it. So that would be my. A long answer to the. I thought about it more. I could have shortened it up, but it couldn't go on. Sorry.
But basically, what we're saying is mobile versus bricks and mortar. Somebody would have an investment in the ground versus I can set up across the street in a RV of sorts. I don't have an objection to making it restricted for everyone in a mobile clinic in a mobile setting. But again, that's the will of this committee, of the subcommittee. Yes, sir.
When we talk about mobile veterinary for profit businesses, do we have mobile quite a few? Do we have quite a few?
Senator, there are some. I wouldn't say that there are quite a few, but I think there are a couple. I recollect there being one in the upstate. I don't know that I can't speak to the full inventory of them, but I do know one or two. And Senator, I believe this did come up in the previous bill that the House looked at a couple of years back. Issued for profit.
Any other discussion? We'll have a vote on the amendment as presented. We'll see where we go from here.
I second.
Because we'll want to get into discussion. All in favor of the amendment to the restriction would apply to both for-profit and private and public, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Amendment passes, so we'll add that to the bill, Gene. You may move on to the next section.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Senators, we're in section 2 now, and top of page 3. The words care and adoption were just inserted into the overall duties performed in these facilities.